All right, well, welcome and hello. My name is Olivia Allison, and on behalf of the Center of Excellence for Hospitality Resilience, I am pleased to welcome you to the Ensuring a Resilient Event Business series. Today's module will focus on foundations of successful event entrepreneurship, which will offer a deeper analysis of details pertinent to the organization and execution of an event, meeting, conference, sponsorship, and social event. So once again, thank you for joining us today. This series is intended to support small tourism and hospitality businesses looking to create, sustain, and grow their event management offerings. This six-part series is brought to you by the Center of Excellence for Hospitality Resilience, a joint initiative of Temple University's School of Sport, Tourism, and Hospitality Management and Temple Small Business Development Center. Today's module is a 60-minute session with a 30-minute Q&A where you can ask questions via the chat box or by using the Q&A function in Zoom. And following this module, all attendees are welcome to join our open office hours where you can ask today's presenter questions about topics covered. Those office hours are from 3:30 to 5:30, and they are in a separate Zoom meeting. So you'll be able to turn your camera on and unmute yourself and ask your questions directly to the instructor. I will post the link for you to register for those office hours if that's something that you are interested in. But in the meantime, I will turn the floor over to today's presenter, Ira Rosen.
Great. Thank you very much, Olivia. It's almost like you've said that speech once or twice before. I don't know how many times you said it, but you still hit it with all the enthusiasm that you can muster. So I appreciate the introduction. So thank you for joining me on a Saturday afternoon and agreeing to spend an hour or so with me, learning a little bit about this concept of successful event entrepreneurship. The second part of the series doesn't mean you had to take the first part, certainly, but this is kind of a standalone module. And it's this whole concept about developing a successful business plan. It's also really important to note that this is a 1-hour session. So you're really just kind of getting a flavor for the development of a business plan. By the end of the 60 minutes, you'll kind of know a little bit about it, but you certainly won't know everything there is to know about developing a business plan. I typically do some training in this realm very often. And in 2 weeks, I'm doing 2 3-hour back-to-back sessions. So you're getting about 6 hours worth of training in 1 hour. So deliberately, we go through this stuff really quickly. As Olivia said, you can certainly ask questions at the end of this. You can also ask questions as we go along, either Olivia or myself. We'll monitor the chat and try and answer those questions as they come up. So again, kind of the tip of the iceberg in some ways when it comes to this concept of event entrepreneurship. But the development of a successful business plan is absolutely essential for any business, whatever the business that you're looking to develop, to grow, to be a part of, whatever it is, whether it's, again, our discussion today is centered on event-related businesses. But without a successful business plan, absolutely no business will succeed. Talk all of the time when I teach event management to undergraduates or graduate students or entrepreneurs or professional festival and event producers around the world, that everything really starts with this plan. The theory says this is what you should do, but in reality, you have to do this. You really can't start in the middle. Well, let me change that. You can do anything you want, but it's pretty rare that successful businesses start in the middle of the development of a business plan. So again, we'll go through a couple quick tips and hints that will help you as you do develop a business plan. So why do you care? You know, again, if you check me out on LinkedIn or saw any information about what I do for a living, I teach full-time at Temple University. I'm an associate professor of events management in the School of Sport, Tourism, and Hospitality Management at the university. What do I know about entrepreneurship? Well, long before I set foot in a college classroom, I developed a successful business. I was a very successful event producer and event consultant for the company existed for about 35, 40 years. Built it up from zero, had no clients and no revenue when I started the business. And 35 years later, when I mostly retired from the business, we had a couple of years with $1 million in revenue. So, I get what it takes to build a business in the event world. What that means to you is that I followed the model that I'm going to talk about today without really knowing that the model existed. I was not taught how to do events. I learned it the hard way by doing them. But now you have the advantage, as the students have the advantage of really learning how to develop a successful event entrepreneurial business from the ground up, being taught by people who have really done it. So it's important, again, because we live in an academic world. I like a lot of quotes. There's a couple of them that I use throughout this presentation. I'm big on using smarter people's quotes, and this is Michael Dell, who founded Dell Computers. So clearly he knew a little bit about starting a business. These are words I try to live by. Again, I don't read a lot of slides. This one I'll read just to emphasize it. Try to never be the smartest person in the room. And if you are, I suggest you invite smarter people or find a different room. To me, what this talks about in the world of entrepreneurship and business planning in our environment is surround yourself with smart people. Okay, learn from them. Always be learning. This is a lesson that undergraduates don't always like to hear. Literally, we had our commencement from our school yesterday in person. I'm really excited to add. Clearly, in May of 2020, we did not see each other. We did 100% Zoom commencement, and it was a less than satisfying experience, shall we say, for all of us. But yesterday, we did a very appropriate, socially distanced, well-run from a COVID perspective, in-person graduation. And one of the things that we in our school teach our students all of the time, whether they're sports students or recreation or tourism or hospitality students, I also teach marketing students and advertising students and theater students. They all wind up in the event leadership classes, is you always have to be learning. And again, that's why you have taken the time today to spend an hour or an hour and a half with me out of your Saturday. You don't have to be here. Nobody is twisting your arms necessarily to sit here and listen to me. So you clearly get the value and the understanding that in order to be successful in our industry, because it is so entrepreneurial, because it is so people-oriented, because it is so forward-thinking and always changing, we always have to be in a position where we're learning more and more about what it is we do. So again, I love this quote. I have said this to people all the time. I never want to be the smartest person in the room. Good news is that I rarely am. There's lots smarter people around than I am, but I've kind of learned it the hard way. And this is a lesson that I've really learned, is to surround myself with smart people. So because I teach now for a living, I always like to start at the very basics of what we do and really discuss terminology, because all of the words we're going to look at on this slide have different meanings to different people. But in the world of entrepreneurship, as we look at it, it's really important that we are all, quote, on the same page with what we're doing. So I'll describe them, I'll give the definition of them, and then I'll give you an example so you really get it clear in your minds. Again, I'm really big about teaching by example. So the 4 words that we're going to look at are goals, objectives, strategies, and tactics. And as the slide said, goals are the end results. Objectives are the measurable means that we utilize in order to reach those goals. The strategies that we talk about are thinking things through before doing them. And the tactics are these detailed things that we do in order to execute a specific strategy. Great, lots of words on a slide. I'm sure all of you have heard the words before. I'm sure all of you have a definition in your head of what these words mean. This is the analogy that I use to really describe this. And it resonates because it's something we can all identify with. And in order to become entrepreneurs successfully, in order to execute a successful business plan, we need to really understand these 4 words. So all of us live and die by GPS systems. We have them in our phones, we have them in our cars. I never go anywhere without, a GPS system making sure that I know where I'm going and how I want to get there. So if we look at these 4 terms and looking at it and comparing it to GPS systems, The goals, the end result, that's our destination. So let's say I didn't know how to get to Temple University, and I've been there so rarely over the past 14 months, it's sometimes easy to forget. And I live at the beach in New Jersey. I live in Monmouth County, about 70 miles from the university. So if I did not know how to get there, I would put in the address of one of the garages. So 1700 North Broad Street. Okay. It's pretty close to where the building is, right near where the Leo Chorus Center is, the big auditorium, the big arena on campus. So if I didn't know how to get there, I would put that into my GPS system. That's my goal. That's my end result. Doesn't tell me anything other than where I want to be. The same thing when we look strategically at the world of business plans. Where do we want to be? What is our end result? The objectives are the turn-by-turn directions that we utilize in order to get to our goal. Okay? So they have to be measurable. They have to be really specific. So again, we know with GPS systems, in my case, it'll say make a right on Monmouth Boulevard, make a left onto, think about it, Route 18 South, make a right onto Route 138 West, and on and on and on and on. Specific things in 1 mile, make a right on exit whatever. Okay. Again, it's specific, it's measurable. Okay. Turn by turn directions are our objectives. The strategies are what we have to do before we set out on that journey. Again, using that GPS analogy. So when I drive, I'd like to have a bottle of water with me. Okay. I get dry in the car, like to have water, I don't always want to stop for it. Okay, making sure I have the water, making sure I have enough time to get there. Very important. It's a strategy. If I know that I'm going during rush hour, and yes, rush hour is getting busier and busier, as I found out yesterday, driving to Philadelphia, there are a lot more cars than a month ago. But I have to make sure I have enough time to get there. That's a strategy. I have to, if I don't want to stop along the way, I have to make sure that I have enough gas in my car. I want to make sure I use the restroom before I go. All simple kinds of things, but those strategies are the things that I want to do in advance of executing my objectives, getting to my goals. And then the tactics are the things that I have to do when things get in my way, my plan B, my plan C, my plan D, the details. So let's say I've got my goal, okay, I want to get to 1700 North Broad Street. I've got my turn-by-turn directions, car is gassed up, I've got water, I've got enough time, I did what I needed to do before I get in the car, and I'm driving along my way, and I get to Broad Street, and my turn-by-turn directions say, make a right onto Broad Street. And standing at that intersection is a police officer with a police jeep saying, you can't make a right-hand turn there. Then I need a tactic to deal with that literal roadblock. I could choose to ignore the police officer and drive through the barricade. Probably not a really good idea. Or I could listen to the recalculation of my GPS. We all know what that's like. We make a wrong turn. We can't go a certain way. We go past it. And our system tells us recalculating, or whatever the terminology that our system is using. And in some systems, by the way, you can put in a really interesting, you can change voices on those. I didn't know that till a while ago. And for a while I had Batman in my ear till I got really tired of Batman talking to me. But again, the tactics, the recalibration, the rethinking of what we're doing. So when we look at business plans over the next 45-ish minutes or so that we've got together to talk about them, think about all of these things. Think about where we want to be. Think about the end result. Think of those measurable objectives that we're going to take in order to reach that end result. Think about how we have to plan things out before we start them. Can we plan things out in the middle? Again, you can do anything you want. But what I'm talking about here is how to be most successful. And then the tactics are the things that we do in order to execute our strategy and to have our plan B, our plan C, and our plan D. So business plan, again, is another one of those terms that people throw around a lot, but don't always understand what they mean. Some people confuse them a little bit with strategic plans. We'll talk about strategic plans a little bit later, so you can see what some of the differences are. But again, it gives you that ability to focus on why you exist as a business. And again, when I use the word business, one person is a business. If you are entrepreneurs, if you are starting your own venture, you are a business. Don't think about the fact that I'm just one person. Maybe I'm operating in the spare bedroom of my house. Maybe I'm sitting in my basement. Maybe whatever you are a business. Think about yourself as a business. Even if you are one person. When I started my business a long time ago, I was literally one person in the second bedroom of my house. But I developed a business plan as a one-person entrepreneur. It looks at our financial viability, and we'll talk a little bit about finance today. And it maps out the things that we need, the resources that we have in order to better deliver the possibility of success. There is no guarantee of success. If there was guarantee of success, there would be no poverty, there would be no economic need. Everybody would be really successful. Unfortunately, we don't all have the means and the resources to do that. So not everybody is successful. Not every entrepreneur becomes Bill Gates or Michael Dell or Hewlett or Packard. Yes, there was really a Hewlett and a Packard. Or a Walt Disney in our business, or a Hilton or a Marriott. Pick the name, pick the famous name. All of those people started out the same way, with a business plan, with an idea, with a concept. Probably not all going to grow up to be those people, but again, shoot high, have strong and very lofty goals. I think that's really important. So again, you're listening to this, and a lot of you are probably saying, it's just me. I get it. So as a small entrepreneurial enterprise, do I need a business plan? So again, trick question. Yeah, and hell yes. Okay? So don't set out down this path without having a plan in mind. Because if you don't have that plan in mind, if you don't visualize the success, if you don't have the goal, you're never going to get there. You're going to wander around aimlessly. Okay? There's a quote, again, big quote person. It's attributed maybe to Yogi Berra, who was a former Yankee and manager and all-star Hall of Fame catcher. Actually went to school with one of his kids, so I got to know him and his family pretty well. If I don't know where I'm going, how am I going to get there? Okay, he was a little weird. But again, if we don't have that goal in mind, if we don't have an operational aptitude for setting up our business plan, we might succeed, but our chances are going to be far greater if we actually follow these plans. So why do we need to think about this? Why do we need to develop a business plan? We do it for a bunch of reasons. And again, the reasons are not all inclusive because, again, we don't have 6 hours, and even in 6 hours, it's not all inclusive. But business plans enable us to define change and to direct change. And one of the constants in this industry, the restaurant industry, the hotel industry, the travel industry, again, fill in the blank to whatever piece of the field that you're going into, change is constant. Resilience is constant, hence the name of this program, the Center for Hospitality Resilience, which was started at the beginning of the pandemic as a response to what the SBDC was hearing from entrepreneurial restaurant owners, tour operators, wedding venue people, social planners. All of those people needed something because the industry was changing overnight. Again, not for the better, but certainly changing. So business plans enable us to define that change and to control it to some extent, or to direct where we want to go, recognizing that change. It enables us to guide growth, and growth is important. Again, we have, as I said earlier, we want to have lofty goals and expectations, but how do we get there? It's easy to say, hey, I'm starting my business today. In my first year, I want to make $1 million. Wow. It's a great, lofty, and ambitious goal. And if that's your goal, that's great. But how do you grow? How do you grow your business? Without a business plan, you cannot probably effectively grow your business with any level of success. You want to manage your priorities. And this is really important because if everything is a priority, nothing is a priority. Okay? So you really want to figure out what the most important things you have to do are and how you get there and manage those priorities. Who do you need to bring along? And we'll talk a little bit about human resources today. Can you manage your growth and can you manage your business as one person? Maybe, but you're probably going to need other people along the way, whether they're consultants or independent contractors or interns or volunteers or subcontractors or vendors. It is really hard to succeed in this particular industry, in the event industry, without other people on the team. So you're going to need some other people on your team. When you have those other people on your team, no matter who they are or what their roles are, you have to assign responsibilities. Because again, just like priorities, if you don't have specific responsibilities, nobody understands what their roles are. And if nobody understands what their roles are, how do you move forward in a business? And chances are you probably can't. Tracking your progress, again, if you set that lofty goal at $1 million, how do we know if you're getting there? You know, what's your first month look like? What's your second month look like? Are you hitting your measurable objectives along the way to your goals? Unless you have a system in place to track that, you don't really know, you're guessing. And although we can certainly guess as we build our business, it's probably not a good, quote, business plan. Clarifying rather the allocation of resources, because none of us have unlimited resources. Even if you work for an organization or you get a project that says you have $1 million budget, it is still a budget. There are 3 resources that we always look at in this industry. And the one thing that they have in common is that there is never enough of any of those. And those 3 resources are time, whoever has enough time to get stuff done, people, whoever has enough people on their team to get stuff done, and the third one, money. Nobody ever has the amount of money that they want, that they need in order to make things happen. So with those 3 pools of limited resources, again, we have to allocate them. We have to manage them. We have to make sure that we're prioritizing our resources in a certain way in order to continue to move us forward. So we're going to ask ourselves 4 questions over the next half hour or 40 minutes or whatever. We're going to ask and answer each of these individually. So the first one, why do we exist as an organization, as a business, as an entrepreneurial enterprise, as an event? Why do we exist? And this is the fundamental question that we ask ourselves in this industry, both in theory, again, what the talking head in front of you says and what the slide says, but in reality, we have to ask ourselves that question. Why do we exist? Why are we starting this business? Why are we running this event? Because if you can't effectively answer that question, don't go any further. Stop now. Okay? So why do you exist and for whom does your organization exist? So everything that we do starts here, starts with this mission statement. And every organization has to start to be successful with a mission statement. Even if you are a one-person entrepreneur, answer that why. Again, start there. That's the number 1 question. Why do you exist as an enterprise? Why do you exist as a business? Why do you exist as an event? It conveys a level of value. It provides a framework to guide the way you're doing it. So again, if we go back to those analogies, the mission statement explains our goal. Where do we want to get to? What do we aspire to? Okay? It gives us the what, the statement of our core purposes. It gives us the who, or whom as the case may be. Who do we serve? Who are our customers? And how do we serve them? So mission statements are concise. They're a paragraph, a sentence. Mission statements are not, 150 words. 25 words, 30 words in a project that I literally finished my grading yesterday, in a project that my students had to do. And one of them, they have to give a mission statement for an organization. When I teach this in a 6-hour class, the first exercise is designing a mission statement, because both in theory and reality, that's where you start. Looks at organizational philosophies, looks at goals, looks at ambitions. If we attempt to operate without a mission statement, can we do it? Maybe, but it's not going to give you that goal. It's not going to give you that strong star that you have to shoot towards in order to be successful. And your mission statement has to be specific to the organization and not a generic one. So again, just want to show you an example of the mission. This is our school, Sport, Tourism, and Hospitality Management. We went through a strategic planning process that took us about 18 months. It was released back in October-ish. So in there is this mission, globally recognized for developing leaders in sport, tourism, and hospitality from diverse backgrounds, producing impactful research and advancing communities. 15 words, okay, that describe a school. If you knew nothing about the School of Sport, Tourism, and Hospitality Management, this would give you what we want to be, the goal, the expectation, the place that we want to go if we are being successful. So the second piece of that puzzle is vision, and vision talks about aspiration, where we want to be in the future. What is our preferred future? Again, draw on our beliefs, our mission, what the organization is about. Be positive and inspiring. Be open to the fact that things are going to change. Visioning brings us out of that in-the-box thinking. And when we talk towards the end of this hour about creativity and what that means, you will see the words boundary thinking again. It's that in-the-box thinking. Visioning takes us out of the box. It promotes interest. It's laser-like focus. Vision can keep you really focused. And it can result in this efficiency and productivity. Can, not does. It's a difference. And that's what we want to, quote, aspire towards. Some of the things that will kill vision, and I'm sure we have all been through this more than once in our professional careers. If people say we can't do this because we have always done it a certain way, that's that whole concept of tradition. Not saying tradition in and of itself is a bad thing. Tradition is good, and we can build on tradition as we build our vision. But if we utilize tradition to lock us into a box and say we have always done it this way, we'll never get anywhere. So one of the things we did, and again, our plan was a strategic plan, not a business plan. So in that, mission and vision are still critical. We looked at our tradition. Our school has existed for, we're going into our 22nd year. There's a lot of history in that. But has the school changed in 22 years? Has the world changed in 22 years? Has the curriculum changed in 22 years? Yes to all of those, and then some. So we can't just say, always done it the same way. When we're looking at visioning, we have to be open. We have to make sure that we don't criticize others, that we don't make fun of other people. We have to get past stereotypes. Stereotypes are negative assumptions. Oh, you know, this group of people is this, does this. This group of people wants to come to this type of event. This group of people wants to learn a certain way. We do not know that. Stereotypes, again, negative assumptions. People get complacent, and I'll talk about complacency towards the end of our time together today. Complacency is like, we're great, we don't have to do anything. Leadership gets tired. Leadership is exhausting. Developing business plans and strategic plans and missions and visions and making things happen is exhausting. So people get tired. And when you get tired, you're like, you know what? I don't want to be creative. I don't want to think outside the box. I want to do the same thing this year that I did last year. Very different. Short-term thinking, and as entrepreneurs, very often we think in the short-term world. How am I going to make enough money to pay my bills this month? Okay, I get it. Been there, done that. It's a hard question to answer when you're starting a business. But vision is deliberately about the future, looking forward. And then the naysayers, the people who say to you, you can't do it. And sometimes as entrepreneurs, sometimes that naysayer is in our own head. I'm a big one about talking to myself. Yeah, that might be in some, in some cases a little weird or neurotic, but that little voice in our head that says, no, you can't. Okay. So even if it's just us, don't listen to that little voice in your head that says, no, you can't. So again, vision is this inspiration and empowerment of people through transformational experiences. Forward thinking, looking at where we want to be, looking at how we want to be, quote, aspirational and inspiring of people. So looking at mission and vision, to wrap up this section, it really looks at broadening the experience. So again, even if you're that sole entrepreneur listening to the voices in your head, talk to other people, talk to mentors, talk to the SBDC folks. They are great at helping entrepreneurs develop their full-on business strategies. Talk to your friends, talk to your family, talk to your mentors, talk to your advisors, talk to me, talk to somebody. Because the broader the involvement, the better the results. Sometimes companies bring in outsiders. I've done business plan development for a lot of different companies because sometimes the outsider is better thought of than the insiders. Define reality, and it has to be reality from our own perspective. Again, we want to be big thinkers, but what is the reality? If we want to make $1 million in our first year, that's great. It's aspirational. Is it realistic? If it is, cool, great, stick with it, but really think it through. And then lastly, don't let the vision killers take you down. So that answers the first question. The second question that we have to ask about is this concept of customers and stakeholders. And recognize the word stakeholder is a really broad term. Customers are one type of stakeholders. Stakeholders are any individual or company or business that has a interest in moving you forward in your business strategy. So stakeholders, you, if you have people that work for you, your staff, if you're lucky enough to have investors, your customers, anybody that affects you. If your business is in the business of doing weddings at venues, well, then the venue is a stakeholder, okay? So recognize that stakeholder is an incredibly broad business term. And in order to be successful in this next step, we have to understand that different stakeholders have different objectives. So if let's say that I am an entrepreneurial wedding planner. So if I think about some of my stakeholders, let's say that the first stakeholder are my customers, the couple that is choosing to get married and is going to hire me to be their wedding planner. Another stakeholder is going to be the venue. Okay, let's say they've looked around, you've worked with them, you've looked at lots of different venues, and you've chosen a venue. Well, that venue wants to make the most money that they can. They are for-profit businesses. They want to make money. They are not in the business to lose money. Now, your other stakeholders, your customers may want to operate on a budget. So their goal is maybe to be as thrifty, shall we say, as possible. But the venue they've chosen has the expectation of making money. So in order for you to be successful in the development of that successful business plan, sorry, I said successful twice, of that business plan, you have to get both of those objectives, understand them, and find some kind of compromise, some kind of middle ground, so that every stakeholder is getting something. So again, customers are defined as one type of stakeholder, but to get to our customers, we have to figure out who those customers are. And then we have to figure out what we need to know about them. So when we look at our target audience, we have to figure out how to get to them. And in order to develop who our customers are, we need to know certain things about them. Again, we can guess, we can do guesswork, but the best thing that we can do is understand these two things about them. The first word up here, the demographics piece. The demographics piece addresses statistics. It addresses numbers, their socioeconomic status, their marital status, their gender, their sexual preferences, their culture, their ethnicity, the statistical kinds of things, the things that we find out in a census. It's about numbers. Demographics is about numbers. Psychographics is more about how they think. What do they like to do in their spare time? Let's say we're doing this wedding planning thing. You know, do they have a theme in mind? Do they have a favorite color? Do they have a favorite fabric? Do they have a favorite type of music? Those are non-statistical things, but they are just as important, in some cases more so, than the demographic or statistical information. And then we also have to understand ourselves as entrepreneurs. We know our vision and mission at this point because we've talked about it. And then we have to come up with some kind of name or brand to identify ourselves. What do we want to call ourselves? When I was starting my business, I did not want to be Ira Rosen Productions because you know what? Nobody knew who Ira Rosen was. And today, maybe a few people know me. But I came up with a name that made sense as to what I wanted to do. My company's name was Entertainment on Location. We would produce entertainment at any location, okay? Simple, easy, understandable. So think that through. Can you use your own name? Of course you can use your own name. But from a branding perspective, what value does your name have? And so think about that. Again, you know, if it's Dell or Hewlett or Packard or Hyatt or Marriott or Hilton, it's a whole different conversation. So again, just a real quick thing to look at the differences between business plans and strategic plans. Very simply, business plans are management tools. And in a minute, we'll look at leadership versus management. Business plans are management tools. 1 to 3 years down the road. Strategic plans are visionary. They're looking forward 3 to 5 years down the road. They are much more specific as leadership. So again, business plan, management oriented, strategic plan, leadership oriented. And here's some of the differences. Again, leadership, we talk about vision. You never, and I hate to say the word never, and if I'm wrong, call me out in the chat box, I'm okay with it. I have never heard the word visionary manager. I have heard the word visionary leader because again, leadership and vision are somewhat synonymous. Leaders focus on intangible, the feel, the corporate culture, where we fit in the industry, whereas managers manage and run the day-to-day operation of the business, the tangible skill sets. And in order to be successful, we need both of these. We need great leaders, we need great managers. So again, when we look at leadership, some of the skills, again, building our professional career, building our financial operations, again, not managing them on a day-to-day basis, facilitating human resources, again, not necessarily hiring and firing, creating the vision for the event, orchestrating the event, and just as you are doing as leaders, entrepreneurial leaders, you are pursuing your professional development. Whereas management skills, these are some of the words that we see: admin, coordinating, marketing, legal, ethical, risk management things. Again, as I said, love quotes. This is a great one on leadership. I subscribe to a bunch of different leadership blogs. To me, again, Colin Powell, great leader. It's about people. It's not about organizations. Not about plans, not about strategies. It's about people, motivating people to get the job done. And then this one, again, unknown. It's not about being the best. It's about making everyone else better. And both of these, again, relate to that concept of not being the smartest person at the room. Okay, different types of leadership. There's the Democratic leader. Again, this is not Democratic and Republican. It's a whole different conversation. Democratic leaders are those that get consensus, that get people on the same page, that ask for opinions, that get options. The laissez-faire leader is more like, it's sunny out today, I'm going to be a sunny leader, or it's rainy out today, I'm going to be a rainy leader. And the autocratic leader is the one who just tells you what to do. Now, which of these is better? And again, a lot of us think that that democratic leader is better. But when it comes to decision-making time, you want an autocratic leader. You want somebody to take charge. You want somebody to say, when the fire alarm goes off, get your stuff and get out of the building as quickly as possible. You don't want to have a vote. You don't want to gain consensus. You don't want to get people's opinions. So in the entrepreneurial event, restaurant, hotel, wedding, social planning business, it's great to get consensus. It's great to get people on the same page. It's great to, quote, take their temperature, not literally in COVID, and see which way people want to go, but ultimately make a decision, which is the autocratic leader. And these I'm definitely not going to read to you. And again, the recording is available, and Olivia will get the slides out to you, when the session is over. But if you think about looking at these terms, and if you think about people in your lives that you would define rather as great leaders, they will have a lot of these skills. And then it fits into, most of these will fit into these four categories. This concept of being aware of yourself, this concept of being able to, quote, manage yourself. And again, there's that word resilience, comes up a lot in our leadership discussions. You want to have empathy, you want to be a good listener, and you want to have great relationship skills. And again, this is the source for that. Really good book if you want a really quick read on how important leadership is. And then the last slide on leadership, in my undergraduate classes and some of the longer training classes I do, I play this 10-minute video by a guy named Scott Williams, and you can Google Scott Williams leadership video. It's really good. He looks at 10 different categories and how managers handle it and how leaders handle it. So again, not going to read it to you because you can all read it on your own. The third question that we look at is leadership. How do we structure our leadership, and how do we manage our human resources? And again, we recognize we want to be a team business. So when we look at if we look at human resources functions, no matter what we're doing, whether we're bringing in independent contractors, or we're bringing in volunteers, or we're bringing in independent contractors, or we're hiring staff, each and every one of those operations has 5 steps to it. We have to recruit the person or the people. Okay, where do we find them? We have to hire them. We have to get some physical process done. Again, if it's a staff position, that's easy. It's a really easy hiring process. If it is a volunteer, I still want to have some kind of formal hiring process, because again, if you don't value the volunteer, and in the event world, we utilize volunteers a lot, so it's important to treat them as a part of your human resource team. So find them, hire them, train them. Not one of these is more important than the others, but when it comes to volunteers, I think training, quite frankly, is the most important one of these 5 things, because your customers don't know if that person is a staff person or a volunteer. So if you don't train your volunteers, and a customer has a question, and the customer asks that person a question, and they're not trained to appropriately answer that question, it reflects badly upon you and your team. So it's your responsibility to train them. Okay, the business world buzzword now is onboarding, training. Okay, you call it whatever you want. Onboarding is orientation, is training. You want to reward those people. And again, it's different from the volunteer world than it is in the paid staff world, because in rewarding a paid staff person, we all know what that means: more money, more vacation time, more PTO, personal time off. How do you reward volunteers? Because by definition, a volunteer is unpaid. Recognize them, thank them, maybe give them a gift card, maybe give them a nice t-shirt, maybe give them a nice recognition party when the event is over, but reward them in some way. And then the 5th thing is keep them, whether they're volunteers or staff people, Because think about it, if they leave, you've got to go through the prior 4 steps all over again. And it costs you more time, more people, and more money. Those 3 key resources. We want to make sure we're hiring the right person for the right job, because not everybody is right for every job. If you have somebody who comes to you and they're really introverted and you're running a wedding planning business, or you're running a restaurant, or you're running an event management firm and they're introverted, doesn't make them a bad person, but you're probably not going to want to make them your number one contact for your customer. You're going to want them in back of house. Okay, you're going to want them to help with inventory, or you're going to want them to help with marketing or social media. So right person, right job, absolutely essential to your success. The other thing that's absolutely critical for your success, give me a second here, as I'm stumbling over my words, is we live in a diverse world. To me, that is a great thing. Okay, because we don't all look the same. We don't all come from the same background. We're not all the same age. We're not all the same gender. We're not all the same sexual preferences. All of these things enrich our society and enrich our events. So we want to make sure that whatever we're doing, we're recognizing the importance of diversity, inclusion, and equity. 3 different words, very similar. But we want to make sure that we're recognizing that and that we're being as diverse as we can possibly be. And I threw this word out to you before, this concept of independent contractors. And very often in our business, we are bringing in other people that are not employees, but yet they are getting paid. To be really careful about what those people are and what they're doing. We have to look at 3 different factors in determining an employee versus an independent contractor. Behavioral control talks about their reporting function. Okay? Do they have to show up at a certain place to do their work? Do they have to give reporting to one person all of the time? Do they have a set schedule? Or can they just do their work in an independent setting and just get it done? That's behavioral control. The second is this type of relationship. Do they work for one company or multiple companies? And a lot of people work for a couple part-time jobs, but this is more than that. If you're an independent contractor, you can have 20, 30 clients if you're lucky. And then financial. If it's a employee relationship, you get a W-2 form, taxes get taken out by your employer, Social Security gets taken out by your employer, disability gets taken out by your employer. If you are an independent contractor or you are engaging independent contractors, that financial relationship is different. They don't get a W-2 form. They get a 1099 form, and you don't take out taxes for them. They have to pay them. It's an obligation. And the government will fine them, but you don't take it out and remit it to the appropriate governmental authority. It's where people in our industry screwed up years ago, and they get a lot of scrutiny from the IRS because people were being brought in as independent contractors when they were in essence employees. Just understand it. Again, this is not a class in labor law. It's a way longer conversation than an hour. But again, if you are an independent contractor or you want to be one, or you're hiring independent contractors, just make sure you understand them. So the 4th topic and the last 2 topics we go through pretty quickly, just because if you can nail down the first 3, the others should be relatively easy to understand. And again, just touching on it, because all of these could be their own easily 1-hour topic. Money, okay? We all need it. We all want it. We all have to have it. In order to run our businesses and quite frankly, our lives, we need to generate revenue. So we have to have a budget in place. And when we talk about the concept of budgets, we have to recognize one simple truth. Whether it is in the world of business or is it in your own personal lives, there will always and I don't use always and never a lot, but there will always be more expense lines in your budget than income lines. And it's a very simple reason to understand why. And again, when I teach this at the undergraduate level, I literally ask them to put it in the chat bar or raise their hands or do something with it. Is it easier to spend money or to make money? 99.99% of the time, people will say it's easier to spend money as a person or as a business. Therefore, our expenses are always in a line item budget. There are always more line items for expenses than for revenue. And in developing this budget, recognize that it is a management tool, not a leadership tool. Developing the big picture financially, that's leadership, but managing the individual budget lines for revenue and expenses, that is a management function. And whether you are a one-person show or a multi-person show or a venue or whatever, a restaurant, whatever it is you're doing, have a budget. Understand what it takes to build a budget. Understand profit and loss. Understand revenue and expenses. And look at that budget and manage that budget on a regular basis. Not a quarterly budget, not a monthly budget, but and you set your own time frame, but you have to pay attention to it because it's easy for costs to get out of control if you're not watching them. It's easy to miss your financial projections if you're not watching them. The number one reason for entrepreneurial business failure is this one: money. The other stuff we can figure out. We can figure out mission. We can figure out vision. We can figure out human resources. We can figure out customers and stakeholders. But if we're not paying attention to the dollars and cents in our businesses, we're not going to make it, certainly not long term. Okay? So recognize how important budgets are in driving us forward. Budgets help us monitor costs. They help us control our spending decisions because, again, as I said, it's always easier to spend money than to make money. We go back to this concept of priorities. Budgets enable us to focus on our priorities. They show us where we can save money. They determine our risk level from a financial perspective. This is not a risk management discussion. That's next week for any of you who want to register for that. Next week at 2 o'clock, I will be discussing risk management in the entrepreneurial world. So please feel free to join me. But this is financial risk. It is one of the things I am, again, truth be told, a very liberal person in everything except finances. When I was running a business, I was really conservative in my level of risk for my business because I started with nothing. Okay, so understand your own personal risk level financially. Measurable objectives. Again, that $1 million goal is a great goal to have. It's really aspirational and visionary. How do we get there? We need measurable objectives. And to set up these early warning systems that talk about, hey, you know what? We budgeted $25,000 for office supplies. We're now 3 months into the year and we spent $22,000. Whoa, something's wrong here. We need either budget correctly or we need to stop buying pencils, pads, papers, and toilet paper. And again, early warning systems. Then the last piece of the puzzle here is how do we move forward? We've just spent almost an hour at this point. We're almost at an hour. We've done this. We've got our mission. We've got our vision. We know our customers. We know who our team is going to be. We have a working grasp of where we're going to be financially. Now what? How do I move forward? How do I take what I'm doing and take me from where I am today to where I aspirationally want to be a year from now? So again, like I said, love quotes. This is just a screenshot of one I stole from a friend and she knows it. The most dangerous phrase in the language is we've always done it this way. That talks about vision. It talks about the fact that if we are going to be entrepreneurs, we have to be creative. We have to take chances. Entrepreneurs are risk takers, almost by definition. Because if we weren't risk takers, we would work in the standard 9 to 5, 40-hour week thing we've always been doing. When I took the leap off the bridge and left a really, really well-paying entertainment company production job and started my own company, it was a leap. It took creativity. And when we look at creativity, understand it's not about artistic creativity. If you are artistically creative, that's awesome. Great for you. I am not. Okay? I am not a musician. I am not a choreographer. If somebody gave me a ruler and a piece of paper, I still couldn't draw that straight line. But I'm creative in other ways. I'm creative in the way I teach, hopefully. I'm creative in the way I design my events from a logistical perspective. How do I get all these people into the event safely and out safely? I see opportunities and problems. Some of the characteristics of creativity, most of you are going to have this. You're curious, you're enthusiastic, you're persistent, you have imagination, and you hopefully know what ideas you want to pursue. Because we in the entrepreneurial world live in the world of blue sky thinking. And in blue sky thinking, we take that box that I talked about in vision back whenever that was, 20, 30, 40 minutes ago. Take the box, we don't think outside the box. We take the box, we crumble it up, and we put it in a recycling bin. Because blue sky thinking has no limitations. It is open-ended. Many of the greatest ideas that we have seen in our world were developed through the use of blue sky open-minded thinking. And again, there's some great books. Google blue sky thinking, some great articles and some great books about what it is. It's about idea generation, ideas that don't necessarily need to be grounded in any level of reality. And we get there through creative thought, brainstorming. And I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about that. We've all been there. We all know what it means. We have to prepare for it. To do a good brainstorming session, you have to be prepared. I participated in one of the worst brainstorming sessions that I've ever participated in a couple nights ago. It was a professional association, and the CEO of the association spent 20 minutes talking about what he wanted to see. Wasted 20 minutes of my life because he was not prepared. He was not prepared to listen to what people said. He wanted his ideas validated, not brainstorming. Okay? So understand what brainstorming it is. It's about creating this process for generating multiple ideas. And if you go into this session with a specific outcome in mind, don't waste your time and don't waste everybody else's time. A couple other things that I like to talk about. There's lots of ways to encourage creative thought. These are two of my favorites. Mental imagery and visualization is where you think about something. We see this a lot in athletics, in the world of gymnastics, or the world of golf, or in the world of snowboarding, where the athlete stands at the hole or before she jumps onto the balance beam or goes down the slope. They're standing there, they're thinking about what they're doing. Sometimes their eyes are closed, sometimes their heads are moving, because it gives you that ability to visualize where you want to be. I'm a real visual thinker. People can tell me something, but unless I can see it, it doesn't become real to me. So when I work on events, I spend a lot of time at that event site, looking at it, standing there, visioning what it's going to look like when people are at my event. And then the other one that I really like is this concept of unconscious problem solving, which works in two ways. If you're trying to get something done in front of your computer and you're just staring at that screen and it's not happening, get up and go do something different. Take a walk, get a cup of coffee. If you're a drinker and it's happy hour, whatever is appropriate for you, but do something different. Break that cycle, get away from it. And then do something that's completely unrelated. I love to walk. I walk between 3 and 5 miles a day. It's good for me physically, but it's great for me mentally because I can think things through clearly because they're not preying on my mind. So we want to always be looking for new and different things because there is always something new and different that's out there. And how do we get those ideas? These are some of mine, but whatever works for you. I'm a huge Netflix, Hulu, whatever feed binge watching. I love that. Okay. I used to love to go to the movies. I used to love to go to the theater. Can't wait to do that again. I read a lot. I read a lot of professional stuff, but I read a lot of mystery thriller, sit on the beach crap. Okay. You don't have to read for intellectual stimulation. We could all get lost in the internet. We've all gone down that Google, rabbit hole before, but it's incredibly important, gives us lots of ideas. We can fund anything on the internet. If you don't know how to do something, Google it. Simple. Network. And this is hard to do in the virtual environment in which we're living, but as things loosen up again, seeing colleagues, talking to colleagues, having conversations, join professional associations, reach out, find out who's out there, meet them, talk to them because they can help you. And then understand what's popular, understand what's going on now. I have to do this. I pride myself in my ability to be a good teacher to my undergraduates and graduates. I have never given the same lecture twice. Even this one that I did 4 or 5 weeks ago, the slides are relatively the same, but I can guarantee you if I go back and listen to the recording from whenever that was, and I listen to the recording from today, it's different because the world has changed in 3 or 4 weeks. I've added stuff, I've changed stuff. I've given, in the past 6 months, 4 or 5 keynote speeches to professional associations around the country. Same topic, where are we going to be? Where are we going? Doing another one in 2 weeks for the California Festivals Association. Not done yet. I'll finish it the day before I have to present it because trends, things will change. This industry is constantly changing. So if this was a good teaser for you, we actually have an Event Leadership Executive Certificate Program, which unfortunately is not grant funded. So it's not free, but I'll work with you on pricing. Where this course that you got in an hour, we do a 6-hour course on this, do 4 hours on risk management. It's great. Again, this is not a promotional piece, but if you're interested, that's where you find it. That's my contact information, my email address, my cell phone number. Everybody in the city of Philadelphia has my cell phone number, so I'm certainly willing to share it with you. And that's that for now. I will get out of my screen share. And if there's any questions in the chat box, I can go in and look too, but.
I think I've mostly posted a lot of resources for our attendees today. I put a link to the certificate program. So that will be in the slides that you'll receive in the follow-up email. But if you wanted to check it out now, there's a link there. And I think like Ira said, so next week, everyone's going to receive an email that will have a copy of the slides and also a link to watch the recording. So if you came late or maybe you missed something, you stepped away, you'll be able to rewatch that. But now, yes, if anyone has any questions, please feel free to type those in the chat box or to use the Q&A function. Now is your time.
And as Olivia said at the beginning, after this is over at 3:30 Eastern time, I'll be hosting office hours. So if you have a one-on-one question or something that you don't necessarily want to ask in the chat box, feel free to drop in. I think Olivia has put that link in there, or will put that link in there. It's a different Zoom link, but I'll be there for 2 hours, I think. So
yes.
Again, thanks for reminding me how many hours.
Yeah, it's just 3:30 to 5:30, and it's a little bit more intimate. We normally let just like 2 or 3 people in at a time, and we'll be there till 5:30. So if you need to step away for a while and you will come back at 4:30 with a question, we will still be there, happy to answer. All right, well, we will stick around for a few more minutes if anyone's, typing a last minute question, hasn't had a chance to send it. But once again, thank you so much for joining us today. And we hope you enjoy the rest of your weekend. And thank you so much. Yeah.